Right, Nick, if you could really describe for us the airport, and its location, which we believe is not too far from the White House.
That's right, yes. It's actually located in Virginia, but just outside of the area of Washington, D.C., the District of Columbia. It is therefore incredibly close, about a half a mile, not just from the White House, but also from the Pentagon. The Capitol Hill is not far from there as well. The State Department also. It is one of the most tightly controlled airspaces in the world, not just the United States, but in the entire world. It has about 800 takeoffs and landings taking place each day. And many pilots reportedly say that this is one of the most challenging landings to make, because not only is this a tightly controlled airspace near to those important buildings and VIPs, they have to navigate a narrow corridor as they bank around buildings that are very close to the Pentagon, taking a hard right as they come into land and try and square off their approach with buildings, populations on the right-hand side and the river, the Potomac River, on the left-hand side. A difficult banking manoeuvre, and hearing from aviation experts over the last couple of hours, they say that makes it very, very challenging. And because they are making that right turn as they come into land, their focus is solely on the instruments in front of them, the information that they're getting from the ground crew, the control tower. And often, therefore, it's not a case that they're looking out of the window at what might be taking place around them. And I think, obviously, it'll have to be a case of finding out in this investigation how this accident unfolded. But the fact that there was this military helicopter in the air at the time was not something that the pilots were expecting, and probably not something that they actually saw as they were making that difficult approach, navigating that canyon around the buildings and coming into land as they tried to at Ronald Reagan Airport.
Right, Nick, when we talk about, if you could really get us a sense of how dense is the airspace when we're talking about this particular area that's been involved in this mid-air collision. Was this chopper flying blind? And basically that really means is that the chopper was perhaps not transmitting its location data.
Well, that much is not clear at this stage. What we do know is that it was on a training flight. Training flights often take place in the evening hours, late at night, something that apparently it's easier to schedule at that time of day because air traffic is often reduced compared to the busy daylight hours. So it's not unusual that they were taking that flight. But what will certainly be looked into, the fact that this was a training flight, and therefore was there user error on the part of the pilots who perhaps were still being trained, still getting up to speed with the controls, still getting used to controlling that Black Hawk helicopter. That is something that they will need to look into. But on any given day, the airport is trying to deal with about 800 landings and takeoffs. It's a very tightly controlled airspace, but also a very busy airspace. Our offices are very close to the airport. We see planes coming into land and taking off. Often during the day, it's every 90 seconds to every 2 minutes. And therefore, that shows that this busy area of the United States, an incredibly busy area when it comes to air travel, was at this time of night perhaps slightly lighter than daylight hours, but still creating a very difficult and challenging situation for the pilots, both of the plane and of the helicopter.